Sha Mayopehi Sapitre Kupitan Prabhu. Thereafter, Lord Brahma requested Prahlad Maharaj, who was standing very near him, "My dear son, Lord Nrsingadev is extremely angry at your demoniac father. Please go forward and appease the Lord." Text 4 is Tateti Shanakaya Rajan Mahabhagavato Arbakaha Upetya Bhuvi Kayena Nanama Vidratanjali. Narada Muni continued, "O king, although the exalted devotee Prahlad Maharaj was only a little boy, he accepted Lord Brahma's words. He gradually proceeded toward Lord Nrsingadev and fell down to offer his respectful obeisances with folded hands." That one's falling up. That one's too messed up. This is text 5. We need a broom after class. Oh, this one has, text 5 has a purport. So does anyone have it on their phone? Yeah. I don't remember it. What is it done? Well, do you remember where we left off?
We can do 9-6.
Okay. Right. Satatkara sparsha dutta kile shubha.
Satatkara sparsha dyutakila ashubha.
Sapadya vyakta paratma darshana.
Sapadi abhivyakta paratma darshana.
Tatpada padmam hidi nivrito dadho.
Tatpada padmam hridi nibrito dadho.
Vishyatanu klina hridashru lochana.
Rishyatanu klina hrida ashrulochana.
Satatkara sparsha julat kila shubham.
Satatkara sparsha dyutakila ashubha.
Sapadyavi yakta paratma darshanaha.
Sapadi abhivyakta paratma darshanaha.
Tatpada padmam hidi nivrito dadho.
Tatpada padmam hridi nibrito dadho.
Vishyatanu klinat hridashrilochanaha.
Rishyatanu klina hridi ashrulochanaha. Satatkara sparsha dyutakila ashubha.
Satatkara sparsha julat kila shubham.
Sapadya abhivyakta paratma darshanaha.
Sapadyavi abhiyakta paratma darshanaha.
Tatpada padmam hridi nibrito dadho.
Tatpada padmam hidi nivrito dadho.
Rishyatanu klin hridi ashrulochanaha.
Vishyatanu klina hridashrilochanaha. Saha. He, Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Tatkara sparsha.
Tatkara sparsha.
Because of being touched on the head.
Because of being touched on the head.
By the lotus hand of Nrsingadev.
By the lotus hand of Nrsimhadev.
Duta.
Dyuta.
Being cleansed.
Being cleansed.
Akila.
Akila.
All. Ashubha.
Ashubha.
Inauspiciousness or material desires.
Inauspiciousness or material desire.
Sapadi.
Sapadi.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Abhivyakta.
Abhivyakta.
Manifested.
Manifested.
Paratma darshana.
Paratma darshanaha.
Realization of the Supreme Soul.
Realization of the Supreme means
spiritual knowledge.
spiritual knowledge.
Tatpada Padmam,
Tatpada Padmam,
Lord Nrsingadeva's lotus feet.
Lord Nrsimhadeva's lotus feet.
Hridhi,
Hriday,
within the core of the heart.
within the core of the heart.
Nivritta,
Nivritta,
full of transcendental bliss.
full of transcendental bliss.
Dadho,
Tadao,
captured.
captured.
Prishatanu,
Vishyatanu,
having transcendental ecstatic bliss.
having transcendental ecstatic bliss.
Manifested in the body.
Manifested in the body.
Klinahrit,
Then
whose heart was softened
whose heart was softened.
due to transcendental ecstasy.
Transcendental ecstasy.
Ashulochana,
Ashulochana,
with tears in his eyes.
tears in his eyes.
Translation. By the touch of Lord Nrsingadeva's hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head, Prahlad was completely freed of all material contaminations and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed. Therefore, he at once became transcendentally situated, and all the symptoms of ecstasy became manifest in his body, his heart filled with love, and his eyes with tears. And thus he was able to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. Repeat after me. By the touch of Lord Nrsingadeva's hand
By the touch of Lord Nrsimhadeva's hand
on Prahlad Maharaj's head,
on Prahlad Maharaj's head,
Prahlad was completely freed
Prahlad was completely free
of all material contamination
all material contamination
and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed.
as if he had been thoroughly cleansed.
Therefore, he at once became transcendentally situated,
Therefore, he at once became transcendentally situated.
and all the symptoms of ecstasy
All the symptoms of ecstasy
became manifest in his body,
became manifested in his body.
his heart filled with love,
His heart filled with love,
and his eyes with tears.
and his eyes with tears.
And thus he was able
And thus he was
able
able
to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord
to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord
within the core of his heart.
within the core of his heart.
Prabhupada's purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14:26, Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Elsewhere, in Bhagavad Gita 9:32, the Lord says, Mam hi partha vyapashritya epishu papayonaya striyo vaishyastata shudras tepi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, although they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. On the strength of these verses from Bhagavad Gita, it is evident that although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a demoniac family, and although virtually demoniac blood flowed within his body, he was cleansed of all material bodily contamination because of his exalted position as a devotee. In other words, such impediments on the spiritual path could not stop him from progressing, for he was directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are physically and mentally contaminated by atheism cannot be situated on the transcendental platform. But as soon as one is freed from material contamination, he is immediately fit to be situated in devotional service. Om again Timurandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tati Svapadantikam Mandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Srivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanahati Chandidevam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lita Shri Shakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutade Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchaka Patrubhyascha Kripasindhu Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Prabhupada, in the translation to the Sanskrit word klina hrit, he gives the translation as whose heart was softened due to transcendental ecstasy. And the material world, the heart becomes very hard, and people fight, people kill, people are envious, and people are very, very vicious to each other, especially as Kali Yuga progresses more and more. And people who support one sports team, they want their team to destroy the other team or kill the other team. When I was a kid, we played like baseball or football or basketball. And if one team beat the other team by a big score, it was like, yeah, they killed them. That's typical. We slaughtered them. So it was a common way of speaking when we were here in the United States when we were kids, and it's common, and it's just we didn't actually want them, at least as kids, we didn't actually want them to kill the other team, but that was their way of speaking, and we learned it very early in life, that kind of thinking, and of course, people do literally kill other people, supporters of other teams, or their envy in love, or their rival in business, or their people do sabotage other people, even to the point of killing other people. The only reason is they just can't stand them being better than them at something, or having more than them in some way, more money or more influence, more power, more beauty, more fame. And people will kill each other. So the heart, that's the thing about the material world, the conditioned soul becomes very hard-hearted and very vicious. We see it all around us, definitely in the news every day. We see it everywhere. And so the Krishna consciousness is exactly the opposite of that. Krishna consciousness means klina hrit, whose heart was softened due to transcendental ecstasy. And Srimati Radharani is the emblem of that soft-heartedness. One place in Prabhupada's purport, he says that of all the infinite glories of Krishna, the most prominent of Krishna's qualities is his mercy on the fallen souls in the material world, and his mercy is represented by Srimati Radharani, is personified and embodied in Srimati Radharani. And of course, the Lord Chaitanya is the combined form of Radharani and Krishna in one manifestation. And the external, internal reasons are there for Lord Chaitanya's appearance, Krishna wanting to experience Radharani's feelings for him, and the external, but not external doesn't mean it's insignificant or unimportant, but it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as the external reason for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya is as the Yuga avatar to give the formula for becoming a devotee and going back to Godhead by pleasing Krishna and purifying us, becoming purified and becoming devotees again. So that's what Krishna consciousness is. Krishna consciousness means to become, first and foremost, to be soft-hearted towards Krishna. The reason for coming to the material world is because of being hard-hearted originally towards Krishna. Krishna, I don't want to serve you anymore. I want to be independent of you. I want to be an independent controller. So that's a hard-heartedness towards Krishna. So and come to the material world, and we naturally, as a result of that original feeling towards Krishna, we'd take it out on all the other parts and parcels of Krishna, all the other living entities. And Prabhupada says, in at least one place that I can remember, the conditioned soul is envious of everyone, including his own self. So that's a pretty all-encompassing statement. And so that's what this hard-heartedness is the reason for our coming here, and it's the only impediment for returning back home, back to Godhead, is that we still maintain some feeling of resistance and towards Krishna, resistance towards surrendering to Krishna in devotional service. And that's the only impediment. There's no other reason for staying in the material world and struggling in Krishna consciousness. The only reason that we struggle in Krishna consciousness is because of that original resistance and rebelliousness against God. So one thing that's notable, and Prabhupada mentions in several places, says that in all the temples and churches around the world, there are generally more women coming to the temples, and there may be some disadvantages in being in the body of a woman, and in some ways, a little, attachment to material things and desires. Everyone's pretty much in the same place in Kali Yuga, men and women, as far as material desires and everything goes. But the specific value of being in the body of a woman is naturally more soft-hearted. It doesn't mean that they're completely soft-hearted. The conditioned souls in the body of a woman can be equally as vicious and calculating and as any man, and sometimes in the body of a man can be very magnanimous and kind and gentle also. But in general, to be in the body of a woman can be a big advantage in spiritual life because of being naturally more soft-hearted. So it's a very good thing. And anyway, so our Krishna consciousness, the essence of Krishna consciousness, is just kindness, mercy, soft-heartedness. I heard one interview with one interviewer was asking Prabhupada, I just heard it this morning, it was in Texas or someplace in the United States, and he was like, how it was only, and the interviewer wasn't bad, but he was doing his job, just looking for some angle. News articles have to have something sensational, something critical in them, because people are enamored by such news reports. But so the man was asking, like, how many temples do you have? And it was only after a couple of years in the United States. So Prabhupada was saying, I have this, about 10 or 12 temples, and he was naming the cities one after another. And then the interviewer was like, was saying, well, how many followers do you have? And Prabhupada was saying, well, I have about 100 initiated disciples who are strictly following. And the interviewer was like, not scoffing, but saying, oh, well, that's not very many, 100 followers. But it doesn't sound like a big number, but it is a big number, starting from zero. Only a couple of years before, I heard one thing. And Prabhupada was saying that I started this society in 1966, in the summer of 1966, and then in the beginning of 1967, I became a little indisposed. He said, I became a little indisposed. That's when he had his stroke in 1967, in the beginning. Yeah. So having a severe stroke and being almost completely disabled is not the best thing to do during a class. Is to listen to the class. What? Yeah. So Prabhupada, it's just like a side, like a little point. Prabhupada said, he told the interviewer, I became a little indisposed. It's like if you have a heart attack or a stroke and you can't do anything. And you say, I became a little indisposed. So Prabhupada went back to India for several months, and he didn't know if he'd ever be able to come back, as he left the United States in such bad condition, physical condition. And his disciples, who were all very new, very young, after 2 years, the oldest disciple had been in Krishna consciousness for 2 years or less than 2 years when Prabhupada went back to India. So it's not a very senior devotee. They were a year and a half. They were the senior devotees. But Prabhupada told the interviewer, he said, I went back to India. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to come back. He said, I'm an old man. He was 72 or 3 at the time. He said, I could die at any minute, but I've started this Krishna consciousness. I've given these young disciples the idea, so I'm sure that it will go on. And he may say, well, you may think, looking back from our vantage point 60 years later, you may say, well, that's a pretty amazing thing that Prabhupada said. It's such a all-encompassing life discipline to give up everything and live your whole life in dedication to Krishna's service, completely surrender to Krishna. How could he be assured that these young boys, they were like 22, 25, oldest devotee was like 30 years old. How could he have confidence that these young people would carry on this all-consuming, all-demanding mission of changing everything and going serving Krishna for the rest of their life, and not only doing it themselves, but spreading Krishna consciousness to everyone all over the world. It's a pretty big, but anyway, that was Prabhupada's confidence in his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. That was Prabhupada's confidence in Krishna, in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, that Lord Chaitanya's specific stated desire and statement was that my name will be heard in every town and in village in all over the world. Of course, now it is being heard and chanted in every town and village. There was a devotee here yesterday. What was his name again? Prema Kishore, disciple of Srila Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And he's an Indian doctor in Thunder Bay, Canada. I asked, I knew he was from a doctor in Canada, somewhere north of Toronto. Toronto is like one of the southernmost cities in Canada. And if you've ever been to Canada, you know how far apart everything is and how vast and how cold it is in the winter. And so and I've seen in previous, looking at maps, looked at the map of Canada, and I saw a town named Thunder Bay, and it's way far in the north of Canada on like the Arctic Ocean. And he told me I live in Thunder Bay. It's 1,500 kilometers. That's over 1,000 miles north of Toronto. That's way out there. And he's Indian doctor in a hospital in Thunder Bay, and he has a temple there. Him and his wife run a temple in Thunder Bay. And there are temples. Lord Chaitanya's prediction has come true, that Krishna's holy name, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, has become reality, that the holy name of Krishna is being heard and chanted in every town and village in the whole world. So people nowadays, you're young, and you're young, and you don't remember a time. There hasn't been a time in your life where you couldn't travel anywhere in the world and find devotees of Krishna, find temples of Krishna with Radharani and Krishna on the altar. You can't remember a time when there hasn't been Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam easily available. You can't remember a time when there hasn't been devotional service to Krishna anywhere you go in the world. But you should know that before Prabhupada left India in 1965, it's only 60 years ago, it's not very long. And before 1965, there was no such thing as Krishna consciousness, as bhakti, to pure devotional service to Krishna, anywhere in the world except outside of India. It's always existing in India. India is the land of Krishna, so pure devotional service to Krishna is always existing there. But in the whole rest of the world, you couldn't find it anywhere. I know because I was here in this body back then, and I know it didn't exist. It's only a miracle that Krishna consciousness is spread all over the world, and it all depends. The only reason it's here is because of the soft-heartedness of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, and desiring to take all the fallen, suffering, conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. And Krishna and Radharani coming in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spreading Krishna consciousness everywhere. Okay, so I'll just stop there. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to ask you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada said that the reason we are in the material world because we are envious of everyone, envious of Krishna, and we are envious of our own self.
Yeah.
So being envious of our own self means we are harming ourselves.
Well, we're definitely harming ourselves. I mean, we're envious of Krishna, and Krishna is the soul of our very soul. He is the self. He is our self. Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. He is our self, and we're our other self, or he's the super soul. So we're envious of Krishna, and that we're automatically envious of our own self, and we definitely are by running away from Krishna and trying to avoid him and being rebellious against Krishna. We're definitely hurting ourselves. So Prabhupada always gives the example of the son or daughter of a nice husband and wife. They have nice mother and father who are taking good care of them. But often in teenage years, I know from when I was young, I never had any ill feelings toward my parents, but I definitely became rebellious, and my sister did, and we ran away, left home and have to be on my own. So who were we hurting? Of course, we were hurting them by leaving them, hurting their feelings, but we were definitely hurting ourselves. We were the biggest victims of our own rebelliousness against them. So yeah, it's just like a logical fact. I'm envious of Krishna, therefore I'm envious, and everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, including myself. So I'm envious of Krishna, I'm envious of everyone else. We don't think of it like that. I know when I first came to the temple as a young boy, 18 years old, and the devotees, one of the first things the devotees told me was that we want to go back to Godhead. We left the spiritual world. We originally from Krishna Loka in the spiritual world, and we left because we were envious of Krishna and we didn't want to be with Krishna anymore. So we rejected Krishna. And I remember thinking, because I was, just an ignorant kid and more or less an atheist. And I remember thinking, well, how am I envious of God? I don't know God. I don't even know if there is a God. How am I envious of God? But I didn't reject what they said, but I remember having that thought in my mind. And yeah, and as I went along, and then I definitely understood that God certainly is real, and Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and I accepted the Shastric analysis, the Shastric fact that the reason I and everyone else is here in the material world is because they're envious out of an original envious Icha Dvesha Subhutena. Can you say that whole verse? That's okay. But it said, we come to the material world out of envy and hatred. So and the only person to be envious of hatred and have hatred for is Krishna. So it's a shastric fact statement.
All living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate.
Yeah. So the desire, the original desire is to take the place of Krishna and be the independent enjoyer. Prabhupada said the conditioned soul, the jiva soul in the spiritual world, those of us who are fallen souls, we thought, well, everyone is serving Krishna, worshiping Krishna. Well, I'm as good as Krishna. Why shouldn't I be served? And that's so that's the reason that we're not currently and haven't for a long time been with Krishna in the spiritual world, is because of that original feeling of enviousness and, I'll say, dislike or hatred of Krishna. And so I remember thinking, well, I don't even know if there is a God. And why should I? Well, I don't know. Envious of Krishna. Who's Krishna? I don't even know if there is God. But that's the nature of the power of the illusory energy of Krishna, because people can become so. When you come to the material world, you're put into deliberately put into illusion by the supreme illusionist or Maya Devi. Then the illusion is so powerful that although nothing exists except for Krishna and Krishna's energies, the forgetful conditioned soul is so much in illusion that you think, well, I don't think there is a God, or there is no God. But people will say that. The extreme atheist, committed, dyed-in-the-wool atheist will say, there is no God. But it's like, but there is, actually, there is nothing but God. Nothing exists except for God. You and I, exist as Krishna's eternal servants, loving servants, but only we're only exist as parts and parcels intimately related to Krishna eternally as part and parcel of Krishna. But it's like if you went, the atheist is like if you went out on a sunny day and a beautiful sunny day, and you said there's no such thing as the sun. Well, people would think, that's kind of crazy. The sun's right there. But that's the nature of the atheist. Everything only exists. There's only life anywhere because of the sun. Everything is the sun. It's right there up in the sky. It's big and beautiful and hot. And but the atheist is like that person. It's the ultimate in illusion. Anyways, okay, let's stop there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Now we're going back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
I'll clean.